Welcome to the Explainer. The recent European elections, they were about way more than just picking politicians. It felt more like a battle for the very soul of Europe. So today, we're going to dig into this massive clash between two totally different visions. On one hand, you've got this idea of a borderless, integrated continent, and on the other, a Europe made up of proud, separate, sovereign nations. Wow, okay, let's just dive right in. The 2024 European Parliament elections, they sent an absolute shockwave across the continent. I mean, just take a look at these results. It's pretty clear the political ground is shifting, and fast, right under Brussels' feet. And these numbers, they tell a really dramatic story. So you can see here the parties that were really pushing for things like ambitious climate policies and deeper integration, I'm talking about the Greens and Renew Europe, they took a major hit. And on the flip side, the center-right EPP, well, they really cemented their spot as the biggest group, and the nationalist ECR, they made some pretty serious gains. Look, this isn't just a simple reshuffling of the deck. To a lot of people, this feels like a pretty clear pushback against that established centrist agenda. But these vote counts, they're really just the tip of the iceberg. What's really going on underneath the surface is a much deeper ideological shift. So if we want to truly get what happened in this election, we've got to look past the raw numbers and start asking some bigger questions about the very identity of Europe. And that's because this whole political shift, it's really being fueled by a tension that's been simmering for decades. It's this fundamental clash, right, between two completely different ideas of what it even means to be European. Right, so this shift didn't just pop up out of nowhere, and it makes you ask the really big question. What's actually driving all this change? I mean, why are we seeing voters in so many different countries, all kind of moving in the same direction, all at the same time? What's going on? Well, a lot of academic analysis points to a growing divide. So on one side, you've got what some people call the European identity. Think of folks who are maybe more mobile, more educated, and who really see the upside of a deeply integrated Europe. And then, on the other side, you have the national identity. This group tends to be more rooted in local communities, in tradition, and they're often pretty wary of the EU having too much power. And this quote here from a few political scientists, man, it really gets to the heart of it. It basically suggests that your own personal experience is what really shapes your political identity. Do you feel like you benefit from a borderless Europe? Or do you feel like you're being left behind it all? That's the key. Okay, so to really get a handle on why national identity is such a powerful force, we actually need to rewind the clock a bit. We've got to look at how this whole idea of a nation even came to be. And a really key idea here is something called the imagined community. It's a term that came from the historian Benedict Anderson. His big argument was that a nation isn't really a physical thing you can touch. It's a super powerful idea. It's that feeling of connection, of solidarity, that you have with millions of your fellow citizens, people you will never, ever meet. And back in the 19th century, this imagined community wasn't just an accident. It was actively built. You had romantic thinkers and artists who were digging into folk culture, the songs, the dances, the stories of the common people. And they used all of that to build a shared sense of history and belonging, sometimes in places where it hadn't really existed before. And listen, this wasn't just some abstract academic thing. It had very real-world consequences. Just look at Poland. Here's a country that was literally wiped off the map for a while, carved up by Russia, Prussia, and Austria. But that national feeling, it was kept alive through culture. Things like folk dances, the Polonaise, the mazurka, they became these powerful symbols of a nation that simply refused to die. So you can see, this connection is incredibly deep. It's emotional. And as Benedict Anderson pointed out, it's exactly this feeling of deep, horizontal comradeship, as he called it, that explains why so many people for centuries have been willing to die for their nation. And this is not ancient history. Just look at the fight for an independent Poland after World War II. That struggle alone cost an estimated 50,000 lives, all for that imagined community. Okay, so how does this incredibly powerful, historic feeling of national identity actually translate into votes in the 21st century? Let's take a look at how that sense of an imagined community is being hammered into a modern political platform right now. Well, a lot of right-wing parties across Europe today are tapping directly into that deep well of national identity. And if you look at their platforms, you start to see some common themes pop up again and again. Tighter borders, opposing immigration, pushing back against globalization, and really defending what they see as traditional national values and Christian heritage.
You see this crystal clear with leaders like Marine Le Pen in France. Her whole promise to take back France from the EU, what it does is it frames the entire European project not as some kind of partnership, but as a genuine existential threat to the French nation itself. And this kind of rhetoric is pretty common. The EU gets painted as this European superstate, right? A giant, faceless, bureaucratic machine that's designed to just erase national cultures and histories. It's a narrative that creates a very clear choice for voters. It's your nation versus this faceless, nationless Europe.
So that brings us right back to where we started. With this powerful clash of identities in the background, what do these 2024 election results actually mean for the day-to-day running of the European Union? Okay, so this slide here really lays out the new and kind of precarious math in the European Parliament. Yeah, the traditional pro-EU center can still pull together a majority, but their grip is way, way weaker than it used to be. And if you look at the potential alliances on the right, they're now strong enough to possibly block some really key legislation. The whole balance of power has been thrown off. So, what this all means is that even without holding an outright majority, these right-wing groups are going to have a much, much louder voice. They're now in a position to put some serious pressure on major EU policies, especially on hot-button issues like the green transition and, of course, migration. And make no mistake, this isn't just a Brussels bubble thing. This exact same tension is playing out in capitals all across the continent. I mean, just look ahead to 2025. You've got major elections in Romania, Poland, Czechia, and the big one, Germany. And in every single one of them, the central question is going to be the same. Can that pro-European center hold its ground against a rising nationalist right?
So, a really key takeaway here is that these European election results could act like a rocket booster for these parties back in their home countries. When they have a strong showing in the EU-wide vote, it gives them momentum, it gives them a sense of legitimacy, and that just sets the stage for even bigger fights between national capitals and Brussels.
And all of this, it really boils down to one fundamental question. A question that's been at the heart of the European project since day one. Is the whole point of this a union of nations, where individual countries hold on to their sovereignty, their unique identity? Or is the end goal a nation of Europe, a new unified superstate? The 2024 election definitely didn't answer that question for us. But what it has done for sure is make finding an answer more urgent than ever before.